guys, welcome.
Alvin.
I'm Max. I'm here with Plug and Play, manager of FinTech team, along with my colleague Omid.
So yeah, firstly, I'm Omid, also managing the FinTech program. So firstly, welcome to California. It's romance weather all year round here, so you guys really get to enjoy that vitamin D. But more importantly, welcome to Plug and Play. We are the largest technology accelerator in the world in order of magnitude sourcing and physical locations globally. So we'll kick off this whole visit. The whole day today is going to consist of a tour to give you a bit of history, a bit of basically background on our model, the function models of our programs, and then we'll have you guys meet some of our startups and actually engage with one of our current partners, corporate partners, and then we'll wrap up with our VP and head of FinTech, Scott Robinson, to give an overview about FinTech and the trends we're seeing in the space in between different regions in the world. So Scott Robinson, you'll see him upstairs shortly. He's a thought leader on blockchain and FinTech, especially the RegTech section. So tomorrow we're going to be having a massive regulatory event all day here at Plug and Play. And before I get into too much detail about that, let me give you the history about Plug and Play. How many of you have heard about Plug and Play prior to this visit?
Show of hands, where's mine?
Okay, that's way better than 2 years ago. Okay, so I'll kick it off, give you guys basically our history. Our history goes back to the early 90s with our founder and CEO, Saeed Hamid. He's based in the Bay Area. Him and his family are Silicon Valley billionaires, but believe it or not, they did not make their money in tech. They made their money in more traditional lines of businesses. So in real estate, they own 8% of the real estate on University Avenue. They own a bunch of high-rises out in LA. They own 1/3 of the bottled water market share in Spain, Austria, Portugal. They used to own one of the largest water distribution companies in California. They recently sold that. Massive importing, exporting business with China. They own a banking license I just found out about recently in Mexico. What else? I'm just trying to think of all the different businesses. Yeah, and he represents ExxonMobil in 4 countries. So humble businessman, to say the least. So how did he get into the tech space? So it's effectively started because he'd go to the country club, have a glass of wine, which he with a bunch of his friends, and they'd all be talking about tech. They'd be talking about their newest ventures as entrepreneurs in the tech space, talking about basically something they invested in that's brought in so much capital within 6 months period that sites like snap. My friends are making more money than me quicker. I need to get involved in this space. So amongst his real estate portfolio, Saeed had a tiny piece of property. Till today, we call it 165 University Avenue, the Good Karma building. Why? Dinky old office space, didn't really know what to do with it. He's like, I'm going to rent it out to startups and see what happens. First gentleman to walk into the building was a man called Pierluigi Zappacosta. He was starting a company on the top diamond there called Logitech. He was first moving, so Plug and Play was the first office he took when he moved the company over from Switzerland. Saeed was still new to the game, didn't want to invest, so he just wanted to inspect them. And would you know it, they grew incredibly quickly and had to move out of the building. Saeed's like, I missed a great investment opportunity. I'm going to invest in the first startup that comes in the building next. Right after that, 2 quirky guys walk into the building. One was called Larry, the other was called Sergey. They were starting a small company called Google. So they moved in as 3 people. Saeed loved them. Till today, Omid Kurdistani, number 8 in Google, is Saeed's best friend. Invested in the seed stage through a fund called Angels LLC. Team grew from 3 to 50 people, moved out of the building. Right after that, if you think his thumb couldn't get any greener, 2 more college kids come, had a lot of cash, but horrible credit. So they wanted prime real estate in downtown Palo Alto. No one wanted to give it to them. Like, okay, you guys are a bunch of college kids, horrible credit score, pay your electricity bill on time, and maybe in a year we'll give it to you. So Saeed, being a Persian rug dealer by nature, knew how to negotiate terms with these 2 kids, Max Levchin and Peter Thiel. They were starting a company called PayPal. So Saeed told them, listen, no one in the area wants to give you space, but I know you guys need it to survive, just because all the VCs are in the area. Give me 2 years rent up front, 1 year in cash and 1 year in equity, and we'll talk. So would you know Peter Thiel, Max Levchin gave up 1 year's worth of rent in equity and gave it to Saeed, so Saeed thus was the seed investor or the seed equity holder in PayPal. So now Saeed took a couple of steps back and he's like, okay, I have this really questionable office space that got these 3 fantastic companies go through it within such a short period of time. Imagine what I could do in a big building. Very basic premise. And so fast forward to 2006, Plug and Play was born. We acquired this property from Philips Semiconductor, and today it's our global HQ. It's 180,000 square feet, Today we have 415 startups working out of this building, anywhere from one business development rep up until a 30 to 40 person programming team working out of here. And today in 2016, we are the largest accelerator and one of the most active venture capitals in the world. Why do all these startups from around the world want to be a part of our ecosystem? Wheel of Fortune. So 5 reasons. I don't do this every day. So firstly, investment. So we are seed stage investors into startups. Essentially, at the end of the day, we are investors. Regardless of all the programs, the corporate innovation we run, and so on and so forth, we are, before anything, investors. $25,000 to $500,000 for 1 to 5% equity into startups that come through our accelerator programs. And needless to say, because we take such small ticket sizes and such small equity stakes in these startups, VCs, instead of competing with us, love collaborating with us. So in that sense, we like to say we have 180 VC partners, who are venture capitalists from the area and internationally, that actually share with us deal flow. So if a startup is too early for Andreessen Horowitz to invest in, they'll refer them into one of our accelerator programs, and basically to reach X, Y, and Z metrics, and if they do, and if we invest in them, they'll do their Series B or so on. And then second point, networking. It says 150 plus events up there, but actually in 2015, we actually exceeded 360 events here. So in any given day, we'll have anything from a 50-person Bitcoin meetup, so you'll see a bunch of Bitcoin crazy people running around, up to our 1,000-person demo days, where we'll have 50 startups on stage pitching for 3 minutes each to an audience of 850 to 1,000 corporations, venture capitalists, angel investors, and PR and marketing firms, from the tech crunches to the Wired news. So really creating this ecosystem by plugging in and getting exposure for our startups, for our corporations, and for our VCs with one another. Third point, mentorship. So we work with 166 paying corporations from around the world that come to us to help, basically, for us to help source for them some of the best entrepreneurial talent that they can engage with in the innovation space. But what they also commit, more so than just the membership, is a few hours every month or two to come in and meet these startups going through our accelerator programs. Coaching them, anything from your pitch polishing, stand up straight, speak louder, you're going to meet Andreessen Horowitz tomorrow, please don't wear flip-flops. Straight through to their actual business model. You guys are currently targeted as a B2C, you can gain way more traction, scale way more quickly if you actually look to partner with banks and become a white label solution for them. Fourth point, logistical support. 2 people, they're pet dog living in their mother's basement, they have a startup, their team's growing. With a growing team, you need to start taking investor meetings. With investment, as your team grows, you also need to do term sheets, payroll. With these growing pains, by coming into Plug and Play, we provide startups basic Fortune 500 amenities, from the basic office space, conference rooms, data center they can plug into downstairs in the basement, to even service partners, corporations like Wilson Sonsini, Paychecks, people providing discounted legal services, accounting services, even Visa legal services, because we less about secondary concerns. Why do they do this? Well, today a startup's worth $1 million. In 5-6 years, when it becomes the next $1 billion startup, Wilson Sonsini is still retained as their legal advisor. So that's kind of the premise behind it. And then last but not least, corporate innovation, which me and Max are a part of. So all the different accelerators in the Bay Area, we don't like to say we would compete with one another. Draper University really helps make the entrepreneur move from ideation, create that first idea, not even a minimal viable product, just idea, and really mature them as an entrepreneur in their confidence level. Y Combinator wants to then help secure that startup, that first round of funding for that young, hungry entrepreneur. We're more focused, we think money and financing is great, but more than anything, we also highly value strategic partnerships. So through Plug and Play, we have 9 different accelerator programs. Each one is industry specific. So Max and I are part of the FinTech program. So we work with 21 of the largest financial institutions in the world, ranging from the Santanders, the BNP Paribas, the Deutsche Banks, the Credit Suisse. And they effectively come to us as an augmented resource to work with each of their exclusive KPIs to help them reach the 2 pilots they need to execute on a year. Or with Santander Ventures case, the 4, 5, 6 investments they have to execute here based out of their HQ in London. So by working with all of these different financial entities, we like to say we're experts in the startup world. We have the resources, but we're not experts in the financial industry. All of you here have way more knowledge of the financial industry than me and Max. Well, we have our resources. for the startup. So effectively, we do our due diligence by working with the corporations, whereby they tell us what pain points they have. Whether it's the private banking team saying they need KYC solutions that can find income sources for their ultra high net worth clients, or whether it's biometric authentication for the retail banking division because there's fraudulent activity going on through the roof in the past 5 years. So these various technology pain points and interests will be shared with us. We'll find from around the world, from our 31 sourcing locations around the world, the best entrepreneurs and innovators in the space, and effectively bring them through a 3-month acceleration program to engage with each of our partners in each of these respective programs. So when it comes to scalability in terms of how many startups we accelerate a year, so in the FinTech program alone, we run it twice a year, Q1 and Q3 of every year for 3 months at a time. We get for each program 1,000 applications in just FinTech. So that's anywhere between, 900 to 1,000, so it's like 1,800 to 2,000 applications in just FinTech a year. So put that 2,000 number and then imagine that across 9 different programs with similar numbers and applications. 75% of these applications that come here is really is organic, where they reach out to us from around the world. And then 25%, like they say, some of the best entrepreneurs, you need to pick up the phone and call. And anything you want to add on to that?
For numbers' sake, so we get anywhere between 800 batches. We've done 4 batches for FinTech alone. Some of the programs are more mature, like FinTech, IoT, and retail. Some of them are very new and young ideas. So InsurTech is what we're really excited about. We just opened up companies. We just submitted 23 yesterday. The way we kind of work into this and the business model structure and kind of the way we find these startups and ultimately get down to the number we accelerate is this. We just got 873 FinTech companies applied to our recent cohort of startups. That's basically allocated over the course of 3 months for an application process. We then take that 873. Since we are investors, we do the due diligence for our corporate partners' behalf. Given that they are big Fortune 500 corporations, they don't really have the manpower, the resources, or the time to look through 873. So we break it down to the top 100. We then take that 100, pass it out to our partners. Our partners give us basically a 1 to 5 rating on each company, potentially a 5 being the highest, so they potentially want to invest in them, work with them, white label their solution, incorporate in the business lines, and so on. We then take out those top 100s, break it down to roughly the top 40 to 50 per corporate, cross-reference amongst all of our partners, and we invite the top 40 here to pitch 4 minutes a pop, 2 minutes of Q&A, and they're pitching to our corporate partners. If you've seen the show Shark Tank, it's essentially Shark Tank, but on a way bigger scale. Roughly, we have about 100 people in the room, roughly
representing 40 to 50 financial entities, from the Amex to the MasterCard,
Capital One, and so on. Each startup will go on stage, they'll pitch, and then the corporates will then vote one more time on which startup they want to be accepted to the program. Typically, we end up admitting anywhere between 20 to 30, and we just admitted a class of 24.
FinTechs.
So when you break it down, the 873 down to the top 24, it's just under a 3% hit rate that you'll be actually accepted to the program. Once you do get admitted to the program, you get all types of cool things. You pretty much get a full-on curriculum. You get 2 mentor sessions a week. Basically, our corporate partners will fly a business unit out here. They'll say, hey, Credit Suisse, next fund is here. That's their investment fund, for some of you guys that don't know. The investment guys are here for a week. They want to meet every single startup in the program for an hour. We pretty much relay the information to startups. You build it, they will come. So then pretty much they get 24 meetings with startups for that week they're here.
3 days.
We do other cool things, kind of like we'll do corporate innovation seminars. So essentially, we'll have a large financial institution, someone lay out their whole entire organization and say, hey, these are all the 7 business units that we have. These are the relevant people to talk to within each one. This is how you work with each business unit. So it's kind of like a reverse pitch from the corporate to the startup. And then we'll do a bunch of other cool things like pitch polishing. We'll do and kind of stuff like that.
We have American clients, we have Latin American clients, we work with numerous Southeast Asian clients, we work with clients out from the Eurozone. Why do they come to us? 5 reasons. Firstly, educational purposes. So a lot of these corporations are new to the innovation space, so they really want to get a forefront of the up-and-coming technologies and entrepreneurs there to learn from them more so than actually formally engage with them. So a quick use case I usually like to drop is back in Q1 of 2015 when we launched the FinTech program. We launched it in conjunction with Citigroup, Citi Ventures. So Citi Ventures effectively came to us and they're like, listen, we're really interested to learn about Bitcoin and blockchain, but right now it's a bad word internally. So we want to utilize your guys' platform as a third-party sandbox to play around with the technologies, without the bad PR and press associated with it. So for the first 4 months, they were meeting startups in our program, learning from them, and then 4 months later, they announced Citicoin. And then 4 months ago, Citi actually announces that all their credit swaps on Wall Street are done with the blockchain backend. So we work with these corporations and basically it's educational curve in getting them comfortable with innovation from the point of knowledge to actual execution. Second and third points, business development and business licensing. So you don't want to invest in a startup, but you actually want to formally engage with them. So you want to license out their product as internal or external innovation. Internal innovation being enhancing current legacy systems, cost optimization, how can I reduce the analyst's time in half kind of thing. Second point, external innovation is basically new revenue streams you can service out to you can sell out to your client, your existing client base. Last but not least, investment and or acquisition. So a lot of now more and more corporations now that have been familiar in the innovation space for a while have spun out investment funds, Santander Ventures, BBVA Ventures, Citi Ventures, where they actively invest in startups to not necessarily work with them exclusively, but so they can get some equity stakes in the space and help really that startup scale, not with just one corporation, but across the industry as a whole, which is why our platform is so unique. We don't like working with one corporation. For a startup to be successful, it has to scale across the whole industry. Because for us, if one of our startups lands a POC with Santander, the domino effect happens. BNP will get interested and want to scale their products. Because BNP is scaling their products in Paris, now Bank of the West is evaluating that for the West Coast here in the United States. Now Banco de Brazil out in Latin America is like, wow, these guys in the Eurozone and in the US market are playing with this technology. Let's take a closer look at it. And then of course we have our Southeast Asian clients who are some of the most innovative who then get really intrigued and want to expand that technology out to Southeast Asia, Japanese and Chinese markets. So it's kind of for us as investors at the end of the day, this corporate innovation platform really helps us de-risk our investment portfolio while providing value to the startups and providing value to the... It's a win-win-win. And so far it's been a win-win-win because if it's a lose-lose-lose situation, we probably would be out of a job right now. So the past 2 years, partners have been happy, the traction's been there and our ROI has been good. So everything is incentivized to complement the other. And do you want to take them here? It's Squisher, so we show them the investment portfolio.
Sure, that's top. A couple things before we head on up. We'll show you guys the second floor, kind of get you, show you where the startups actually sit. We offer free desk space and this and that. And then we got lunch for you guys, take you to the third floor, and you get to actually meet 3 of them. Last thing to touch, 3 things about the startups that we do have here. We're stage agnostic, so we're seed and early stage companies, guys with 5 people on the team, a couple million in funding, if that. And then we have guys that are later in growth stage. So pretty much guys that have $50 million in funding, but they come to us because their play is to get hooked up with some of the guys like you, as well as direct communication to the CEOs of these big banks. 2 other things to note about startups: about 50% come internationally, 50% come domestically, and about 85% are B2B. I think that's all we got. We can go up to...
Why does Saeed do plug and play? I mean, the guy's in the golden years, he's 55 years old, he's made his billions, but what keeps him alive and kicking? On one hand, he says plug and play makes him feel young again. Why? Because we invest in these bad boys down here, get them up here, and hope they go to the right. So what gives him that kick of youth? Investing in Dropbox $100,000 8 years ago and then selling his equity in them for $100 million. That's what makes him feel younger again. So basically that ROI, that 1,000x return, that $120,000 he put into Lending Club returning as $48 million when they went IPO. That, or more so than just the big ones, even these ones, number 26 now, it's a bank, it's all digital bank out of Germany we've invested in. They're now raising, we invested in them when they were valuated at...
We were the first investors in number 26. Anybody familiar with them? Yeah. So we put the first 12,500 into them. They went through our Accelerator program actually with the joint venture we have with Axel Springer in Berlin. And then Peter Thiel recently put 40 or 10 million or something like that.
Yeah, put 10 million. And
that's a $40 million valuation.
And now they're raising at a couple of $100 million valuation. So, and now they just got their banking license, so we're just waiting for it to be the next one. But more so than the $1 billion exits, you also have a lot of startups that actually move on to this range, that actually become multi-million-dollar sustainable businesses that we do see 1 to 5% profits on. So for Saeed, a lot of scattered equity and a lot of big exits. And at the end of the day, if one of these pays out every 2 years, that carries the weight for our whole investment criteria for the next 6 years. So... All right, and actually, now we will follow Max.
Two things to touch on really quick before we go. Where do we find our startups? Kind of is like a huge question for a lot of these people. Two major ways we do is partnering with government agencies and partnering with university entrepreneurial clubs. So Zeusk and SoundHound came out of Stanford and Cal. Basically, we're partnered with 50 universities and 50 government agencies. The way we work with them is they'll basically have 5 companies join the entrepreneurial club. 2 will stand out. They'll relay them to us and then try and see if we can work with them for about 3 months. We'll touch on our international presence, but beforehand, these are kind of the bigger event areas which we throw. You guys should take a peek in if you want, but when we hold our major events, they're usually in this area. Feel free to go take a look.
Some kind of provided platform or physical location to work in on the program out of. If anyone comes and provides that and offers that to us, then we expand immediately to make the location. So no one has come with that kind of aggressive offer. We've gotten into Paris, we've gotten into Berlin, Spain, we've gotten into Southeast Asia. We have like now 8 offices in China and 2 in Singapore. Yeah, but nothing in Africa as of yet. But hey,
those are the critical things.
2 biggest critical things. We'll put together the team, and you'll get, and even the startups that apply will come through our global plug-and-play network.
Physical location?
Fiscal, so that we need the monetary stability of $1 million to $2 million, depending on the location a year, and a physical location of anywhere between 4,500 square feet for the first year for a pilot program for the first year, and if it succeeds, something that can scale out to a 10,000 square foot facility.
What about infrastructure?
Infrastructure, so we can get it. I can get you all the details on that. But infrastructure, so the Wi-Fi, all of that, we have all the basic needs. I'm actually working on one right now. So I'll talk about that more. So all these locations. So as I said earlier, we source from 31 locations around the world. Not all of them are physical plug-and-play buildings. Each one kind of has a different model. 18 of these are actual physical buildings. So in China, we don't have an accelerator, but we have 8 small investment offices. One in Shanghai, one in Nanjing, based out of universities in the heart of the city, one sitting in a bank. In Singapore, we have 2 locations, one with a media focus and the other as a generic incubator. In France, we just launched Lafayette Plug and Play, which is a luxury retail where we're working with not just Lafayette Group, but we're working with all the luxury brands out of Italy and France to basically find new technologies to integrate into clothing, to even the point of, to even the customer experience when entering the store. And we're actually super low-key going to be launching, hopefully knock on wood, another program in France, independent of the Lafayette one, for fintech. So working with one of the biggest banks in the world to actually run for them a fintech platform. So how our models differ, at the end of the day, it's a hub and spoke. Every one of our international activities funnels back to here. If a startup gets great traction in the Lafayette program, they come back to HQ here in California to scale even further with more of our partners. So everything reports to here, our operations. And even in Stuttgart, we just launched with Mercedes-Benz. We are running Mercedes-Benz Innovation Lab out in Stuttgart, Germany. So it's really diverse. And for us, in the end of the day, if a startup scales with Mercedes-Benz, and we were the first investor in them, and now they're in every S-Class or E-Class, pretty good retail program, the IoT program. So if there's a way to sell it, it's like augmented resource. We'll help you in any way we can. Soft landing in Silicon Valley.
So if you guys see on the wall here, everyone wants to kind of push back a little bit. You'll see all of the banks and financial institutions that we're currently partnered with. We have 21 financial institutions signed up currently. About 18 of them are some of the world's largest banks. Domestically, you'll see Capital One, you'll see US Bank, you'll see USAA. Abroad, you'll see Santander, you'll see TD up in Canada, you'll see Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank, amongst a lot of others. There's 2 different levels of engagement. The gold placard is essentially an anchor partnership. So like I said when I was explaining the model, when we get those 800 some odd applicants and we break it down to the top 100, the gold is the one that we're actually giving that top 100 list to, and these are the guys deciding on which companies get accelerated here. Once we cross-reference all their interests and we admit 25, these guys are usually the ones that are more hands-on, allocating more resources to work with these guys. Our ask to them is essentially to run 4 pilots a year. Hopefully with the 2 will go commercial. And the guys in the white here essentially get access to the startups within the ecosystem, but they don't get the actual selection aspect to it.
So did you tell them about the history of how we came to this model?
Okay, so the history of how we came to this, we used to run on one-off accelerators. So we did it with Volkswagen and State Farm and PayPal. 3 good examples. Best example, I think, would be Volkswagen. We gave them 10 companies to be accelerated over the course of 3 months. They got to work with 7 of them, which is great. 70% hit rate, great on the corporation side, but they don't have the resources to work with all 10. So you look on the startup side and you see the 3 out of 10 that could not land a way of engaging with Volkswagen. They can't simply go to a competitor like a Toyota or a Ford and try and use their broken solution that didn't work with Volkswagen with another competitor. They're going to say no way. Another reason why we changed to this consortium approach is that the bigger corporation will somewhat poach the startup, stifle their creativity, and ultimately their solution doesn't have a good market fit. It was just tailored to specifically what that corporation needs, and if it ends up not working, then they're screwed in the long run, essentially.
How much for the gold?
It's $200,000 annually for the gold and $100,000 for the white. You want to touch on one more time what we need, kind of from commitment?
Oh yeah, sorry. So
and
I
I'll
was saying
touch on
over
the history
here.
of the program.
Of course. So whenever we work with any corporation, we realize that more hurtful than a bad startup is a corporation that does not have executive buy-in for their innovation strategy. In the past, we saw that we'd have corporations come into our program, give a lot of false promises to the startups for, we'll engage, we'll talk next week, I just need to get this letter of approval, and then we find out.
Hires, one went to Max Lefchin's now company Affirm, and the other went to Airbnb. And that happened, those 2 acquisitions happened within the last 6 months. So a lot of traction, really quick, and so far it's been quite a success.
And when you look at, in terms of the numbers, so look at Plug and Play's portfolio, take a step back. The number of, so what was it, 1 out of every 10,000 startups in Silicon Valley is considered to be potentially, the statistics is 1 out of every 10,000 startups is the next $1 billion startup. We've invested in 450. We used to invest back in 2006 in 12 startups a year. Now we invest in 20 startups a month. So in the past 3 years, we've invested in 450 startups. From our portfolio of 450 startups, we've had $3 billion exits. So not bad comparative to the 10,000, 1 in 10,000, right?
Yeah, we're very active when it comes to investments. 2014, we got voted most active venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. Did 152 investments. Last year we did 166, and this year we're set to surpass
Globally.
200.
So not just in the U.S. market. In Berlin, we did.
Yeah, so about
close to
investment-wise,
60.
we're about 50-50. 51, I think it's actually domestic, or 49 international.
And oh yeah, and also you'll notice that a lot of corporations have office space here. So something we saw trending is a lot of corporations, although our program works with corporations that have no physical presence, half our partners have no physical presence here in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, but we ask that they commit to fly in 4 to 6 times a year to really get value out of our program to meet the entrepreneurs. So a lot of them, during the course of a year into the relationship, they actually allocate 1 or 2 people to actually move full-time here to the Bay Area. So it's something that comes by way of being a partner in Plug and Play. You get it's virtually free office space here in Plug and Play to have a team of 1 to 2 people working out of full-time, and we're kind of a soft landing. So Spearbank is doing it from Russia. They have one person, Viktor Orlovsky, who's a GM of their venture fund. I don't know if he's here today. Then you have Deutsche Bank Labs team. Deutsche Bank Labs has an office. I heard you guys went to it in Palo Alto, but they still work out of here twice a week, just because they believe in something called random collusions, where more so than a tailored, catered deal flow session. Oh, they tailored that? Yeah. So, and I swear to God, they're not giving me a paycheck in the parking lot. Maybe. And last but not least, and then you also have Banco do Brazil. So they're moving here because they're a government. So their largest shareholder is the government. So they move their innovation team here to basically move away from the scrutiny and the bureaucracy and the hierarchy that a traditional bank faces. And then you have Banco Regional, an all-digital bank out of Brazil. They moved. I don't know where Santiago is. He hasn't been here all week. But anyways, this guy moved from Brazil. One guy, innovation guy, and he has a team coming in every 2 months of 3 other people to evaluate the startups he's been keeping tabs on.